That's the first time I've seen you smile so far today.
Oh my. Okay. Well, I tend to be serious.
Okay. Well,
that's one of my issues, in fact.
One of your issues is you're too serious?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into some serious things, but on the other hand, I hope to get into the, I don't want to make light of them, but I would like to, at the end of it, have you look at it as though, okay, with a smile, perhaps. Okay. We shall see. Okay.
Yes. I agree, though. When I get to the point of being able to laugh at, oh my gosh, I've been caught in that for so long, it's such a release. And it's not a denial of what happened or the feelings that were involved, but it's just an acknowledgement of a higher level that it didn't need to be that way.
Yeah, yeah. And we all go through that, by the way. And then some of the stuff that happens seems so dramatic and traumatic and all of that, that we're almost conditioned to think, oh, that's very, we've got to continue to be worked up about that thing. Okay. And well, all right. It would be nice to look back at it and say, well, okay. To give you an example, I've dealt with, I can't tell you how many war veterans with all these horrific, traumatic, dramatic war stories they have that keep them awake at night and cause PTSD, and they wake up there at night swinging their fists and they sweat and all kinds of stuff. Okay. And after we're done, they can talk about this event or even the events that happened like they were a shopping trip. It's still not their favorite topic, and they may not be laughing about it, but the heaviness, it's like they fell off their bicycle at age 5 and skinned their knee and it hurt then, big deal then, but we look back at it now and go, well, kids fall off bicycles.
Yeah.
I don't mean to make, go ahead.
As you said that, and I did write down a list of specific events, but one of the more serious ones for me that happened 20 years ago, and I know I'm forgiven on a higher level. Well, I'll tell you, I was coming home from work. I had done a long shift, 12, 13, 14 hours. And my son, who lived next door, was in the doorway. And I asked him, where's your wife? And he said, she went out to dinner with our best friends. I said, well, that's unusual that you didn't go. And he just kind of looked down. And I was too tired to deal with it. And I was a little annoyed, too, because they'd been having trouble and he was kind of being a little unreasonable, in my opinion. So I just went to my own house, which was next door. Well, that night he killed himself. And I have that was, the epitome of me believing my own tiredness and impatience as opposed to what somebody else needed. And I've done a lot of work around this and feel like I've contacted his spirit. He absolutely forgives me. And well, he said there was nothing to forgive. That was his path. But it remains as a stark reminder to me what the severity of what I don't wish to fall into. And I repeatedly do.
Okay. I think this connects to stuff we haven't discussed yet on this recording, but let me get behind that. Use that phrase again, a stark Say it again.
Reminder of what a seemingly simple act of being lost in myself might do to those around me.
Okay, I'm making a little note here.
Now, I know in a way that doesn't make sense because that incident did not make him kill himself. I know that. Yet, my inability to be sensitive to obviously a fairly deep circumstance I just wish to be more sensitive. That's in the correct way.
Well, okay. Let me reword that a little bit and see if this doesn't mean I'm accurate, by the way. We're exploring. We have to explore. We're going to end up bringing in unseen therapists and stuff, but we want to really explore and find out what it is where we can be most efficient with that. So, I think what you just said was you need to be more sensitive to other people. You said something like that a minute ago. Yes.
Yes, more willing to get through my stuff.
All right. And you said, I'm trying to put myself in your place. And you had this experience with your son. So you go to your son, you ask about the dinner where your wife was and all of this. He looks down and you leave that be, you go home. Now, I personally have been through that kind of thing. Not just that, but stuff like that. Dozens of times. And I think most anybody watching this recording would say, well, yeah, I've been through that dozens of, not that somebody killed themselves, but that they weren't aware of somebody's true deep issues at the moment. And they chose for themselves, well, let them be with themselves. They need some alone time would be a way to say it, and so on. Or something else. I'm going to give you a personal example. It doesn't have to do with death and suicide, but it is still a parallel. This was years ago. I was dating this lady, and she had told me maybe a month or two prior that her father was recently diagnosed with cancer. And so my take on that was, well, okay, people get diagnosed with it and then they go through chemo maybe, or they do some stuff, but it takes a while for them, if they're going to die, to eventually go through that process. All right. So, okay, that's an input I got. Great, fine. Then one day she called me, and I just had some visitors that come to see me, come clear from England. We were going to have lunch in my home. And she called me on the phone. And I said, oh, is there something important right now? I'd like to get back to you because I've just got these visitors and, what's up? And she just said, no, nothing, and just hung up. I thought nothing of it. All right. Turns out her father had died. She was calling me to have a shoulder to cry on or to talk or whatever. And somehow in her perception, I was being insensitive. I didn't even know. I was clueless. Okay. But I could say to I'd like to have you do, this is sort of a reframing type story, Barbara. Here I am in this circumstance. What should I have done at that moment? Tell me.
Well, I think you did what was appropriate to do. We have to let another person be honest also, and not project onto us what they need.
All right. But let me get behind that a little bit. There's a difference I'm hearing between that circumstance I just told you in my story and what you told me. And that is, I take no blame for that whatsoever. Zero. It's her issue. Now, maybe I'm being insensitive and I should have done something, maybe. Okay. But it's her issue. Okay. I'm sorry, and I'm happy to talk later, but there was a lot of blame came out of her and everything else and all of that. You aren't doing that. You are self-blaming, if I hear it right, still at some level.
I don't know if I'm blaming or I'm just sad. That was the last time I saw him. And he was hurting. That was obvious. And I was too tired to be a little more open to it. I guess that's self-blame. I don't know. I don't blame myself for his suicide. I don't. And maybe if I had tried to pry, it would have made it even worse. I don't know. I really don't know how that would have gone. The thing that bothers me a lot, of course, the beauty of him standing in the door, and I would love to have just given him a hug. I've done that in my mind many times over. But the other thing, it just is similar. It's similar in a lot of situations that I'm in that actually I can see, I can feel that there's a need. And I go with my own inertia rather than responding. So does that still sound like self-blame?
Well, these are just labels and we're exploring. We're exploring. I don't know. But when you wrote me this note, and the reason why we're even talking to begin with, is I'm going to read this to you. I read it before, but I'm going to say it again. Yet the dismay and blame toward myself for repeatedly tethering myself to an illusory story too often borders on wanting to give up. Now, you weren't talking about this particular story. There were other stories involved. But you're talking about dismay and blame toward myself for repeatedly tethering myself to an illusory story. And then you say, I am more comfortable with self-recrimination than self-love. Self-recrimination to me is another word for blame. I blame myself. I judge myself. These are just words. These are
true. Now, I have a much easier time with big circumstances than with daily circumstances. Big circumstances, somehow, something in me rises up and can see the overall picture much easier than in the daily actions. And I feel that daily action is what I'm here on earth largely to learn how to be more real in. So it's this time after time, just, like these little circumstances I told you, trying to get my brother out of bed or not waiting for my husband to sit down at the table to eat. Those kinds of things, they're little, and everybody would say, poof, poof. But over and over, 100 of them in a day makes a less than satisfactory life. And there's the sense, and I can feel another way of living. Yet the short periods when I tend to live more from that real place inside, and I don't let those stories, my own impatience or what somebody else is doing, I don't let that bother me. I start to live differently, and it almost scares me to live differently. It's like, ooh, the responsibility of that or whatever. So then I fall back and I mess up again.
Right.
And that's what I mean by I'm more comfortable with self-recrimination than I am with self-love.
Okay. Most of us are, by the way. We don't really want to admit that, et cetera. And I'll go back to some of the foundations of our OEFT course and the unseen therapist and all that. And that is that at the core, and quantum physics has proven this, by the way, we are part of a grand oneness and not running around in separated bodies, even though that seems quite clear to us that that's what we're doing. We're all running around in separate bodies, but that is an illusion. Okay. So there's an unrest that goes on with that, and it manifests in different ways. But I want to get back to this a little bit, because I think when we were talking about this before we ever started recording, you were phrasing it as a sort of impatience. So you get impatient. So your impatient does things much more methodically than you do, and so you'll sit down at dinner time and eat before he comes. He comes to sit down, and you have a brother that is handicapped, and you get impatient sometimes with him, getting him up in the morning and things like that. Okay. Yes. Okay. So it's the impatience. And again, I'm trying to echo this back to you, because I'm pretty trying to get down to what's the issue really is. This impatience, this not slowing down long enough to, this is my words now, not slowing down enough to connect is bothering you. Did I say it right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right.
And even if that's noticed at the time, something will say, Barbara, just slow down, just be willing to look within, be willing to live from that place that is offering itself. It's right here. There's somebody, no, not right now.
No. All right, let me ask you something. Again, I want to get a good sense of this. All right. I too have impatience. I don't know anybody who doesn't have impatience at least someplace in their life. Okay, get on with it. Most people would much rather watch many people would much rather watch a basketball game where things are moving all the time than a baseball game, which has a lot of dead time, if you will, between pitches and so finally somebody hits the ball and whatever. Okay. We have a built-in, everybody, I think, just pretty much everybody has a built-in impatience. I have it as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Always correct me, because I'm just fishing, because I don't have all the facts. Okay. I don't really have any self-blame or get worked up about the fact that I'm impatient. I say, well, I'm impatient. But it doesn't really bother my world that I am impatient in some areas. Okay. In your world, it does. Now, am I on target here?
Yes. And I don't expect to lose impatience. I believe that is kind of like a trait of being here on earth, but I do at least hope that I won't go with it so much. It can be there. It's an impulse, but to go with it, to manifest it, to blame others for being in my way or taking too much time or that kind of thing, enough of that.
I think I do that too. Okay. But maybe it's a degree of thing. It's one thing to be impatient. I would call that normal impatience. Okay. whatever normal impatience is. Okay. New term for the world, normal impatience. Nobody knows how to define that, but we'll use that term. You, if I'm hearing it right, you have excess impatience. You're over the top to the point where it becomes bothersome. You become self-recriminating. You self-recriminate. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't want to live with somebody like me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and you said to me earlier, I think before we recorded, that this kind of thing even gets in the relationship with your husband and so on.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you weren't, my term, over the top or excess impatient, your life would go much more smoothly.
I don't know about more smoothly. No, but I would feel that I'm on the right path, that I was learning something.
Okay. Another thing I'm hearing, from what you said earlier, is that you were talking about, yes, I understand, that there's this oneness, and I can get there myself from time to time and recognize it, but I can't do it all the time. And so I'm hearing, again, correct me, please. I'm hearing a comparison in your own mind. Here's where I should be.
Yeah.
And the oneness is, there is no judgment. There is none of that. It's just, it's really a blissful place. Here's where I should be, and here's where I am.
Yeah. It's kind of vain.
And okay, well, that's another self word. Something's wrong with me. I'm too vain. I'm too impatient. I'm whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have looked at that and I said, why do I think I should be like that? How many people do you know are like that? Why do you think you would be? That kind of thing. But that side sounds like, don't try to be a better person because, you'll get haughty or something. There's something standing in the way of that. And maybe I do step into being haughty. I don't know. I'm just, God dang it. I'm almost 70 and so much of my life I've been trying. And it seems like, will I ever get it? Will I ever be willing to get it?
Get what?
Yeah, that's a good question. Get that all this stuff that I keep believing really is not real.
Okay.
I experience it enough to where I know that's the truth. I know that's the real truth, but I keep falling into that darn story.
Well, wait, Barbara. All of us do that. I do that. Listen, I am teaching this grand course that you're a member of about how to get beyond our separated stuff being an illusion into the higher level. I'm not there all the way. No, I'm improving all the time. That's what we do. We are so stuck in this world because it's there 24/7. And yet there is this higher level that is our true reality that we're unaware of. And it's a process to get there. So we deal with our specific events. We bring in more peace. A little anger here goes, some resentment there goes, a fear here goes, and so on. And so we get more and more peace and we graduate. I'm hearing you saying, I got to be there now and something's wrong with me.
Yeah, maybe I am saying that. And I see the folly of it. I mean, I do recognize self-acceptance is huge. And I've been saying for probably about 15 years now, compassion for myself. I'm starting to feel compassion for myself. How wonderful. And seeing the unconsciousness of myself. And that's all it is just unconsciousness. It's nothing to blame. But, I see that sometimes, but there is still a lot of blame.
Well, yes. I wish I had a course that would be a light switch. Gee, read these 3 bullet points, and dream about it at night or something, and all of a sudden, boop, you are in complete enlightenment. You're at the very top of our stairway to miracles. Nothing ever bothers you anymore. You're in bliss forever. Nah. Okay. People have been trying that for centuries, if not millenniums. Okay.
I think I do have that story. I think I do. But with consciously, I don't have that wish. I don't expect to be in bliss. I think there are a few people who kind of are, but they're, like maybe Eckhart Tolle, maybe. But he had a real awakening that was beyond something beyond usual. So I don't expect it to be blissful, but I wish to have the balance of my own inner teeter-totter to start to be able to handle my stuff better rather than perpetuating it and even increasing it.
Yeah.
I wish to increase my relationship with my true inner self.
Yes. And so do I. So do I. And so do I. Can't tell you how many students we have and people who aren't students. They would like to do that. They have levels of impatience, if you will, but they have other stuff that they would label differently, but still it's all comes from the same place. Now, what we've been doing here, just to be a technical teacher for the moment, has been reframing. We've been looking at the issue. We've been exploring. We've been trying to cut down to the chase, what's really going on, and things like that. But a lot of it is reframing. You reframe yourself because you ask yourself the question, well, do I really need to be in this ultimate place? Am I too impatient for that? And these are all reframing type stuff and stuff you have visited before. Am I on point?
Yes, you are.
Okay. However, I think so far, while this reframing discussion and your previous thoughts along the reframing ways are useful, but they tend to be, I'm hearing academic. You know it in your head, you don't own it yet.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And so what we would like to do is go from, I think, and you have to tell me, okay, we're about to go into a door that I'm seeing, but if it's the wrong door, you've got to tell me, because I'm piecing stuff together. I don't know your whole life. All right. But we're about to go into a door where we're going to pick out a specific event in your life. I'm thinking something with your brother, something with your husband, or some impatience type specific event. We're going to bring unseen therapists in to help bring some relief to it. Along with the reframing we've already done, we're starting to put stuff on the table. Okay. And the hope is we're going to open a door. We're going to get a good start towards allowing this impatience to just be normal impatience, okay? Not get in your way, so that your relationship with your brother and your husband and the world around you and so on doesn't have all this personal recrimination going on all the time. Now, seem right? Would you add to it? Would you change it?
It seems right. It seems right.
Okay. Now, what we want to do is look for a specific event, because that's where unseen therapist is going to do her job best, and we can expand then from there. Okay. And you've given me two scenarios where specific events can arise. One is with your brother, like when you get him up in the morning, you have impatience kind of thing. The other is some circumstance with your husband. But we want to pick out a specific event that is in Technicolor, okay, that stands out, that you beat yourself up about it when you get into it more than maybe the others. Do you have one that we can talk about?
Yes.
All right. What would that be?
Is fairly recently. And my brother has very weak legs and he has a bad cough right now. So he fell and he cut his head. I cleaned it up. Then I came back in to check on him and he was in bed and I made him get up. He justified it. Well, I fell, I'm coughing, and it was all true. But I had this hardness, I have all these justifications. His legs are weak because he wants to be in bed all the time. He needs to be up. His lungs are bad. He needs to be up so that he sits and breathes better. But it's true too. He had fallen and hit his head. Even if I needed to get him up, even if that was the right thing to do, my attitude toward him was the problem. It was not the action of getting him up. It was this, God dang it, get up out of that bed. I can hear myself. I can feel it. I can, and see him wearily getting up. There was something really not right about that.
All right. Now, one of the things that is often very important when we deal with a specific event is the idea that the further back in time a specific event is, the more foundational it's likely to be. Now, this is something that just happened. That doesn't mean we can't deal with it. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be useful to work with. But as you were saying that, I kept getting this intuitive hit. Don't know if I'm right. That this get up out of that bed, that sort of impatience, has a deeper foundation, clear back in childhood somewhere. I'm going to guess for the minute, but you fill in my guesses if they're useful, okay? You were perhaps commanded in this way, impatiently, by your mother, father, somewhere back in your past. Teachers, maybe this kind of thing. You were put upon, rejected. How am I doing?
Well, it seems like that would be true, but I can't remember. Seems more like, like having to get up for school, but I had to get myself up. So it was like, I would be telling myself, you've got to get up out of bed. Don't stay in bed. It would, maybe I'm just blocking that I can't remember early on.
Well, could be, but let me just explore it a little bit more. I'm going to have you say a sentence. I just want to we're just poking around. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to have you say a sentence, and if you would please say it out loud, and then tell me on a scale of 0 to 10, how true does it feel to you? We don't want the logic of it. We want the emotional response.
Okay.
So again, I'll give this sentence, say it out loud, then give me a 0 to 10. And 10 is, oh boy, is that ever true? And 0 is nothing. Okay. All right. Here's the sentence. I must do it right.
I must do it right. Oh, 9.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Let me make a little note here. Let's go on with that a little bit, okay? Slightly different. I must do it right or else.
I must do it right or else. That's less, probably a 7.
All right. Now the question is, why must you do it right?
I have an impulse to cry.
Right now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're hitting something.
Yeah.
We're hitting something. Okay.
Yeah.
It's taken us a while, but we're hitting something. Okay. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I do feel it from a long time ago. I feel myself as a little girl looking up to her mother and seeing the kind of like, I feel, well, like so many, you know, when your parent is tired or discouraged, it feels like it's your fault. I feel like I felt like it was my fault. And my mother was often tired and discouraged. She didn't really like being a house mother with 6 children, one of them handicapped. It was a hard life for her. But she was loving, all of that, but she was tired and a little withdrawn.
Okay. To me, the important thing you just said there had to do with not what happened, not that your mother was tired and all of this. It's your response to it, because your response is, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Whether that's rational or not is immaterial. Your response is, it's my fault. Somehow or other, she's tired and whatever's going on, the impatience she may have and all this, it is your fault. Now, you're nodding your head, I see.
Yes. Yes.
Am I near the bullseye, do you think, or?
Yes. I mean, a parallel memory that is very strong. There were 6 of us children, all very close in age. And we would go on trips and they wanted us to be quiet. So if we were quiet, if they would say, "Oh, you were so good. We wouldn't have even known you were there." And if anybody else would, you know, comment on that would ride with the car, like, "Oh my God, your kids are so quiet," my parents would preen, you know, "Yes, they are. They're so well behaved."
All right.
And so making noise or doing something against the grain was like, it was our fault for causing problems.
And if you didn't do that and you were quiet, this is my input now, you saw that, you got that as love.
I don't know about love, but approval anyway.
Well, a form of love.
Love.
A form of love, approval, yes. Something which didn't happen all that often.
Actually, they were